Anything I utter will be recorded forever. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for taking your time today, and even more importantly, for being willing to step into this role. It's extremely important, and I'm excited to work with. I love working with groups like this, and I always find it incredibly. It's just a great experience. So I'm grateful that you're all willing to do that. So just to kind of give you a little heads up, our agenda for today.
And you didn't introduce yourself. This is Ted Redmond. He is our, I will do the honors. This is Ted Redmond. He is our consultant from Pale Blue Dot Consulting Company, and he is helping us do our climate action plan, and he's at the select over for the
Great. Sorry, I was having technical difficulties. So our agenda, a little introduction. I'll share a little bit about who I am and what we do. Project overview, kind of what this project is about. The process for the planning effort, how we're going to do this, what this is going to feel like or be like. No time for Q&A about that. And feel free to ask questions along the way at any time. But I always make sure I put Q&A because otherwise I'll just keep talking. Then we'll have a lunch break. And then oddly after that, then team member introductions. Usually I pull it up towards the front, but because we had a lunch break in there, just trying to figure out the best flow of time. So it's a little awkward that you're going to sit and listen to me babble for a little bit, have an opportunity to have Q&A, but really not be able to introduce yourselves until the second half. Sorry about that. But the second half or more is really all about that. So what we really want to do today is give an opportunity to hear from each other, know who's in the room, both remotely and physically, and just hear a little bit about, thoughts that you may have. So whenever I have to speak, I always like getting an advance notice. So these are prompts, and this is not until this afternoon or after lunch, but just an opportunity to share who you are. If you represent a group, that's great to know, or maybe you're not just a resident, but a resident or a business owner, or maybe you're part of a group, a nonprofit, etc. And then just anything that you think you would want to share with this group, like maybe what motivates you to participate, or what are you most concerned about, or what are you most excited about, or what do you really hope to see come out of this process? Just something that you would want to share that you think helps others get to know you today. Okay. So today's all about introduction, introducing the process, introducing what we're doing, and then introducing each other, or ourselves. Okay. So a little bit about Pale Blue Dot. So a little bit about Pale Blue Dot. So again, I'm Ted Redmond. My background is I'm an architect, registered in Minnesota, no longer registered in Illinois. I gave up all my other state registrations because I don't need them anymore. But my background is architecture. I did traditional architecture for years and years. Kind of had a midlife epiphany though, and decided to shift from that into doing climate action. So my partner Colleen and I founded Pale Blue Dot about 9 years ago, I think. And our mission is to hasten the transition to a carbon-free economy and to elevate the public discourse. And we do that really through three sort of mechanisms. We do renewable energy planning, we do broad sustainability planning, and we do climate-focused planning. And in reality, those are all kind of three facets of the same thing in our mind. We're all driving towards that same goal of getting off of fossil fuels and adapting to climate change. So we've done about 60 relevant projects to date, different energy planning, renewable energy planning, sustainability, and climate planning, largely at the scale of communities and counties, municipalities and counties. And we've done work in about 23 states now. In Illinois, we recently completed Skokie's plan and Northbrook's plan. So we've got a little bit of experience in Illinois previously. So, but enough about me. So a little bit of introduction, and this is, I think probably everybody in the room probably has this down, but just it's nice. I always like starting off with like a kind of reminder, like what are we doing and why are we doing it? And so a little sort of 101 introduction, if you will, on climate change. So, as we know, the largest source of global warming pollution is the burning of fossil fuels. And the nuance to that gets a little cerebral, but I like to point it out. And the reason for that is that we're taking fossil carbon that is locked in the geologic carbon cycle. So in other words, it only interacts with the atmosphere at the scale of geology. It's not very frequent, right? So we're taking fossil carbon and we're burning it and putting it into the atmosphere. That's the issue, is we're increasing the budget of carbon inside the atmosphere. And, you know, human emissions have increased significantly since the Industrial Revolution, and our temperatures globally have absolutely responded to that increase. In fact, on record, 21 of the 22 hottest years globally have been in this century. It's kind of amazing considering we're just starting 2023. And what is even more disturbing about that is the hottest of all of them have been the last 8 years. So we're absolutely seeing this is not a fluke. This is not junk science. It's not Chinese folks or anything that we might hear from folks that have a hard time understanding it or coming to terms with it, I think is maybe what happens more often. I think it scares people, and so we want to resist things that scare us. But relative to that, I have some optimistic aspects. So first of all, here's a quote that I like. It's from the book, All We Can Say, Truth, Courage, and Solutions for the Climate Crisis. I'm going to read it here, which is, to address our climate emergency, we must radically reshape society. We need every solution and every solver to change everything. We need everyone. What this moment calls for is a mosaic of voices, the full spectrum of ideas and insights for how we can turn things around. And that is exactly what this team is all about. This is why we do collaborative planning, because the idea of hearing from multiple people with different perspectives, different backgrounds, different expertise, and I mean that very broadly. There are folks in this room that I know are experts in certain areas. Some might be experts in all things climate. Others may be experts in knowing what it's like to live in Illinois, live in Kane County, live in Aura, etc., and who have an expertise in being passionate about making solutions. So everybody has an expertise that will contribute to this process. And it's that collaborative voices that really help us end up with, I think, effective and meaningful plans. So a little bit more about why I'm not depressed. We are in a really unprecedented period of time when it comes to climate action, and it's been getting better and better. We have a lot of work to do. It is a little frightening and a little disturbing, but there's an awful lot that we can build on that I think is really awesome. The first unprecedented opportunity I think we have is in public attitude. Not everybody is excited about climate action. Not everybody feels comfortable with it, but the majority do. We are distinctly in the majority now. In fact, there's this great report that was put out just in August that highlights that we live in this sort of funny, sort of false reality now, where roughly 2/3 or 75% of Americans understand that climate change is an issue, understand that human activity has had something to contribute to it, and want to see something happen. So the majority of folks, and that's nationwide, the majority of folks are interested in seeing change. Interestingly though, if you ask those same people, well, are you in the majority or the minority? Most of them think that they are in the minority. They estimate that only 30 to 40% of their fellow citizens feel that way. So I think this is extremely encouraging. I mean, I wish everybody understood that we're in the majority, right? But what's really encouraging about it is it can help us point out to decision makers, don't be afraid to make the right decisions. There is more support than you think there is for doing the right things. In the state of Illinois, by the way, if you ask the average person, they're probably underestimating by 26%, according to this study. So if you think, well, we're maybe at about 50-50, you're off by 26% probably. Another great opportunity is we have the chance to build on success. In the United States, emissions have been dropping since 2007. We peaked in 2007, and we've been dropping pretty consistently ever since. I mean, sure, there's some jagged up and downs, but it's going down. The trend is going down. So that's awesome. We have a lot to build on with that. Now, it's not dropping at the pace we need it to, So that's why we have work to do. We need to bend that curve faster, but it is going in the right direction. So we have some things to work on. Another thing that I find very exciting is the fact that, a lot of folks think, well, what can I do about climate change, whether it's in my, backyard, my own decisions as a household, or what can we do in our small community or in our county? It's a global issue. It seems like we don't really have anything to contribute to this thing, because if we solve our problems, but the rest of the world doesn't, we're still in trouble. I mean, ultimately that's true, but studies and IPCC report has indicated that local governments alone, so regardless of what national governments do, what international governments do, the IPCC has clearly studied that if local governments take action, they can reduce at least 40% of the emissions that we need to hit our goals. That's a lot. So by focusing on what we can do, we can actually have meaningful impact. And by the way, I always find that as communities take steps forward, the communities around them, it starts to bubble out. We're still sort of throwing stones in a pond and we're creating those ripples. So that's a great opportunity. We also have an incredibly unprecedented opportunity to fund the work. And I just have at the national level here, I didn't even put a slide in here for the state of Illinois funding, but the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act bill, which was passed just last year. I mean, it's an infrastructure bill, but there's a lot of that infrastructure bill that's focused on infrastructure that relates to some of the things that we want to do. And the funding is being guided to help support things like electrification. Actually, I just saw a grant come out a couple weeks ago that it's focused on adaptation strategies relative to highway infrastructures. So there is funding coming out of the IIJA that supports power, electrification, and adaptation. Then the Inflation Reduction Act, about $500 billion worth of funding focused entirely on climate action, planning, implementation, adaptation, mitigation, getting off of fossil fuels, electrification. It's kind of a toy box of opportunity that's coming out. It's just starting to roll out now, and it'll be going through the next 10 years. By the way, there's been good independent studies that indicate that they think that these federal funding will likely leverage twice that in private funding. So although we're hearing, $1 trillion worth of investment, that actually will probably leverage another $1 trillion or $2 trillion worth of private investment that piggybacks on that, which is the whole point. We, put a little bit of seed money in and we get the ball rolling. So that's a really amazing opportunity for us. So a little bit about project overview and why are we here? So the project, of course, is to create a climate action implementation plan for Kane County. So that plan will provide guidance on opportunities to help guide municipal operations, as well as community-wide emission reduction and adaptation. We will be focusing on creating specific strategies to support those goals, and then detailed actions to implement those strategies. So strategies, and we'll talk a little bit more about this at our next meeting, but strategies are very directional statements, and I like to try to make them as quantifiable as possible. So for instance, reduce energy consumption by 10% by Tuesday. And that's a directional statement. We know exactly what we want to achieve, but you're left asking yourself, well, that sounds great. How are we going to do that? So that then is backed up with the detailed actions. So this team is going to help us with both of those. We've got some preliminary starter goals that we can all talk about and decide if we like them, don't like them, change them, add to them, get rid of them. And then once we feel reasonably comfortable with that, we're going to start working on the detailed actions. And we also have some tools to help sort of generate ideas or help get the ideas flowing. So as I indicated, this plan is going to be a full climate action plan. So it's a mitigation plan as well as adaptation. So mitigation is all about, in climate planning, when we say mitigation, we mean reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. So that's stop contributing to climate change. And then adaptation is looking to do what we can to create better resilience in the face of climate change. Our current changes, as well as we project out over the next few decades, we know that bigger changes are coming our way. No matter how successful we are at reducing our emissions, the next couple of decades have bigger impacts for us. Because we've baked into the global atmospheric system some carbon that's gonna have some effect. So it's important to highlight that because that means we have to prepare ourselves. I also like to underscore the idea that just because we have impacts that we must face, does not mean that we stop giving up on mitigation. We must reduce our emissions because that is the #1 adaptation issue for the next half of the century. For our children and our grandchildren, if we do not reduce our emissions, the issues we have to adapt to are nothing in comparison to what they'll have to adapt to if we do not work on reducing our emissions. So #1, reduce our emissions, and right along with it, let's prepare ourselves for the things that we know can be coming. Okay, so climate action plan, ultimately, the document that's produced is a lot like, some communities have a comprehensive plan. If you've ever seen that or been involved in that. So a comprehensive plan is what it sounds like. It comprehensively looks at all the aspects of a community, housing and so forth. And it provides some directional statements, some vision, and some steps to take to start implementing actions in those. So the sectors that are typically included in the climate action plan, we've got buildings and energy, transportation and land use, and waste management. Those sectors are the heavy lifters in terms of mitigation, reducing emissions. There's also adaptation opportunities in those sectors. What can we do to make sure our buildings are resilient, et cetera. The other sectors that are included are water, wastewater, and flooding, health and safety, local food and agriculture, green space and trees, and we always encourage inclusion of economy because these changes offer economic potential. If we're going to create jobs somewhere to address climate, why not create it in our own backyard, right? And there's an adaptive opportunity there. If we can help find good jobs for folks that need them, that makes our community stronger. So let's stop exporting money to North Dakota for energy. Let's put it in our neighbors' pockets instead, right? So those sectors are primarily adaptation, or I should say they're the heavy lifters for adaptation. There is some mitigation opportunities in there. So you'll see that all of those sectors will have a tendency of having a little bit of both in them. Okay, so the purpose of this team, this is a collaborative process. We help support creation of the plan. So we're going to do all the writing and all that stuff. But we don't think of ourselves as the author of the plan. We think of this team as the author of the plan. It's the brainstorming together that comes out of this collaborative process that ultimately creates the actions in the plan. And to me, the actions are way more important than pretty pictures or whatever else. Those are nice to have for public viewing, but really we're creating an action list. And that is authored through this group. So this team is going to support in reviewing, refining, and prioritizing the goals or strategies. And you can see those right now in the baseline assessment, which, and this, by the way, is on our website. All the stuff is on our website, and you'll get links to that. We'll also, the team will be supporting and exploring, creating, reviewing, refining, and prioritizing actions. So what are the detailed things that we want to do to implement those strategies? And supporting and identifying what Kane County communities need to be empowered. So what do we think is necessary to address to help get action moving? So these questions the team will be helping to explore and identify. And then when we're all said and done, this is optional. I mean, it's all optional. You guys are volunteering. Thank you so much. So it's all optional, right? But this last one is even more optional because I know that not everybody's comfortable with this. However, what is really amazing about this process is people listen to other people in their community who have spent time on the issue. I mean, everybody recognizes, like, these people are volunteering effort and they're putting in blood, sweat, and tears, well, hopefully not literally, but you're putting an effort on something that you're passionate about because you care about your community and you care about the future of your community and you want to improve it. When you're said and done, you're going to be experts in this climate action plan. So, it's one of the opportunity roles, to the extent that you wish, is just to help advocate for it, just help communicate it. you know, maybe you want to show up at a county board meeting or a local council meeting and share your ideas. You do not have to do it, right? But it's a great opportunity and it's extremely powerful for folks that have been involved in this process to share their thoughts on it. So as I said earlier, I can absolutely guarantee, we've worked with teams countless times now, I can absolutely guarantee that everybody in this team has great expertise that will contribute to creating a great plan. And I say that because the first few teams that we worked with, I never thought to say that. I knew it was true, but I discovered some folks are like, well, and they would sort of like self-efface a little bit, you know, in the meetings, like, well, I don't really know a lot about buildings or transportation, but that does not matter because you know about being a human, you know about caring about this issue, you know about wanting to make a change, and you're passionate enough to be here. So I absolutely can guarantee everybody will have a lot to be able to contribute to this. Because this process is about, we have ideas to share with you. We're not reinventing the wheel here. We've got ideas that we can share. You can explore them. You can create your own ideas. And what we find makes the most successful plans are when we take some ideas and we try to help shape those to be more reflective of our community. And so even if somebody doesn't necessarily know a lot about renewable energy, let's say, well, you know something about your community. You have a sense of what your neighbor might think or what might resonate with others. So that contribution that we get from all these different perspectives is very powerful. So again, I'm grateful that you folks are participating because it's very meaningful. Okay, and feel free to interrupt me. There will be Q&A opportunity, but like I said, I'll just keep the theme rolling. So if you ever have a question, feel free to just shut me down. Okay, a little bit about the process here. Yeah.
Since you asked, quick
Yeah,
question, will this presentation be posted on the team website?
You bet. That's a great question. And we'll do a little tour of the team website at the very end. But if there's a presentation that we give on for a meeting, that'll show up on the team website, as well as an agenda. Documents that maybe kind of dribble out of a process that we do will show up on that also. So all the resources that we share with you, you can always find on that website. So, yeah.
And we have other documentation, the greenhouse gas inventory.
Yep.
Are those all going to be on there too?
Yeah, we'll take a tour of what's on the website. So yeah, everything that we share with you, you'll be able to find there. So if you haven't yet accessed the website, and no problem if you didn't, because we haven't introduced it to you yet. But when you do, I encourage you to do a little bookmark on your browser so you can find it easily. And also it's password protected, have it save the password because it'll just make it so much easier. It's password protected because there's tools in there that are going to be like work in progress. So we're not trying to hide stuff. We're just trying to allow the team to talk to each other freely without somebody coming in and deleting stuff or you know what I mean? So, okay, so the process here, we kind of go through, it's sort of a 3-phase, it's really kind of like 2.5 phase. But some of our observations about what makes a successful plan is that first, it's grounded in science and data. Secondly, it is collaboratively created, so it recognizes community needs and perspectives. And thirdly, we want to get good input from the community. And lastly, having some kind of implementation tools or thought towards implement, because transitioning from a plan to doing stuff is really difficult. So our approach is set up around that. So our first phase is focused on data and research. And so I think I already get it. So we've done that. Where we're at today is we've done the background research. I'll share with you in just a minute the research that we've done, or at least what's out there. Next meeting, we'll actually go through it. So we've done a lot of research. That has helped us get to a point of having some preliminary suggestions on goals. You do not need to accept those. It's just a place to start. Because we have found that teams work really good if we like write an idea on the wall and say, what do you think? And then give everybody a marker. Because then you can say, I don't like that idea. It's hard to start with a blank piece of paper, right? So we do the research, come up with preliminary goals, and then together in the second phase is the collaborative planning process. So that's us. And so we're going to go through reviewing the data, do some goal setting, develop detailed actions, and then also, and this flexes a little bit based on how the workshops go, because it's important that the team can work at the pace that the team needs to work at. So if we have space, one of our last workshops, we're gonna talk about potential resources to help implement. So like, hey, community groups that are already doing stuff, or, you know, programs that I know about, or maybe there's a super passionate neighbor that you've got that, you know, if we wound them up and said, hey, would you want to go introduce information to people, they'd be all over it, right? So we're just trying to identify how can we get stuff done. So that's what we're gonna do as a team in the middle. When we're done with that, we'll be producing a draft plan. And then that draft plan is gonna go through a review process. So meanwhile, we've got two phases of community engagement. The community engagement has an online survey component and also community input meetings. We're still in the first phase of that right now. The online survey is available. We've done a number of community input meetings. All of the stuff that we get through the surveys and the community input meeting will be summarized and given to you. So you'll have the opportunity to pull out the stuff that you really love, that you think that resonates with me, and talk about it as a group. And we'll help summarize it a little bit, but anybody that, if somebody gives us a comment on the online survey, you'll have access to it, and then we'll try to summarize it so you don't have to read 850,000 comments, right? And then once we have a draft plan, we'll do that same process again. We'll have an online location where folks can review the draft plan and give input, and we'll do some community meetings to share it with folks and get input. And we'll take all the input. We may reconvene if we get input that really is a stumper, or like, wow, that's an amazing idea and none of us have thought of it, or whatever, right? Then we may reconvene just to kind of explore those so that the team can say, okay, that's amazing, yeah, we should definitely incorporate it. So we'll see what happens there. Sometimes we get those sorts of things, sometimes we don't. Okay, so yeah.
So where does this come to the county board?
I'm sorry?
When does this come to the county board?
Well, so we haven't talked explicitly about, you know, specific dates and such, but there's often, we frequently find 2 times that make an awful lot of sense to bring it to a county board, and it depends kind of like on agendas and so forth. But one is informally at the draft plan stage, so that we can just sort of share it with them and also give them an opportunity to review. You know, like, here's a review document, and we can give them their own Google Doc, they could write their comments on or whatever. And then absolutely when it's at the final stage, when we've had review input, we can say, you know, X number of people gave us comments and so many people support it, and here's ideas that we got out of the public engagement, etc. So usually at those 2 stages.
So the actual final document would be the one that's approved by the county board.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So is there any plan to review, like you have a final plan, but things change over time? So next year or the year after, do you go back and review that plan?
Yeah, that's a beautiful comment. And so there's a few, so each of the sectors that I pointed out are the sub teams that we'll all be a part of. And then there's a sector that is kind of like the grab bag that we call it cross-pollinating. A lot of teams call it cross-cutting, and I had a team a couple of years ago say, cross-cutting sounds really evil. How about cross-pollinating? So the idea of cross-pollinating is the idea of, you know, like there's going to be education that might want to happen in multiple categories. We want those teams to identify like, hey, we think educating around solar is going to be really important. That's awesome. Put that down as an action. But one of the cross-pollinating actions is probably put together a coordinated education campaign that ties together all of these needs so that it can be structured. We'll also make recommendations about how implementation monitoring and tracking should go. And one of the things that we try to make really clear is, so these documents look like a done deal. It's a printed, if you print it out, it's a printed deal or it's a PDF. You can't change the PDF, right? So it looks like it's done. So what we try to underscore is this should be thought of as a living document. And so we encourage a couple ongoing things. First of all, an implementation team that can sort of on a regular basis be identifying specific actions they're going to be implementing this month or this quarter or whatever. Maybe if there's money that's needed, they can identify it. The second is having some kind of a reporting on that, like once a year. Hey, what actions did we implement? How did they go? Which actions are we going to be implementing next year? And then thirdly, doing updates to greenhouse gas inventories, because inventory is a great dashboard for outcome. Because you collect a lot of data to do an inventory, it's great. And so we recommend that those things happen the reporting on the implementation at least annually, and then the GHG inventory at least every other year, if not annually. And then the final recommendation is, and then you change course as appropriate. You may find that some action is moving way better than anybody thought. We did not think we could touch that many homes doing weatherization or whatever. Great, let's move that number up, you know? Or some just don't quite work. Like, hey, we thought we would get to X number of commercial buildings doing whatever. It's not quite work. Well, then let's take that action and tweak it. Let's see if there's a way to make it work better based on what we're seeing. So we encourage it to be thought of as a living document that can be tweaked. And then, of course, you know, our event horizon for the planning is out to about 2030, and that can be plus or minus a couple of years. But our long-term goals that we're recommending go beyond that, because, you know, maybe we want it carbon neutral at negative 80%, whatever. I advocate for carbon neutral personally, but that probably won't be able to happen in the next 8 years. And that's a big goal. It can awesome, but so the point here is that there's probably going to be a follow-on, and we can only do detailed actions out so far before they become ridiculous. Some communities try to do a detailed plan in 2050, and I'm like, you know, 2040, we don't know what action is going to be effective in 2040. I mean, who can tell, right?
Yeah.
So the idea of updating the plan, you know, is important too. Yeah.
And this plan, the climate action plan, is coming out of the Energy and Environmental Committee in the county. So our Energy and Environmental Committee will probably review the implementation committee on an ongoing basis. But we'll have to make sure the ordinances, the funding, whatever plans that come out of this plan get enacted. That's why we insisted on having implementation. I'll keep going.
And part of that, we'll have, one of our implementation tools will be an implementation matrix, which is just kind of a fancy way of saying, we're gonna create a living, breathing Excel file that's got all the actions in it, but also then a few sort of bells and whistles that help support tracking stuff getting done, reporting on it, is it in progress, completed, etc. So, to try to help with that, you know. And we'll also be trying to together identify who can do what. Each action, we're gonna try to identify some kind of implementer. Okay. All right, so I talked about baseline documents, and I'm just gonna share with you what they are. And then next meeting, we'll actually give a little bit of a recap on their outcomes, what's in it. So there are 4 base research documents that we put together. The first is a greenhouse gas, I'm sorry, the first one on the board here. It's a vulnerability assessment. So it's a climate vulnerability assessment, just looking at climate change to date, climate change projections, and what might that mean for impacts. The second is a greenhouse gas inventory and forecast. The third is a ground cover study. So that we're looking at countywide census tract by census tract, percentage of tree canopy cover, percentage of grass cover that's mowed, percentage of grass cover that appears not to be mowed, crop cover, impervious surfaces that are buildings, impervious surfaces that are pavement, and those that are dark and light. And the reason why we do that is because there's an awful lot of adaptation that can be understood about that. Where do we want to plant trees? Where do we want to make sure we protect crops? Where are there opportunities to stop mowing stuff and get native grasses or prairie restoration to help deal with increasing storm events? Where might we have more pavement than we need or than is good for us? You know, so there's things that we can do. So the actions that come out of this, that document can help provide a little bit of prioritization. You know, so we can say, let's increase tree cover by X%. That document can help give a little bit of steering about, well, where might that have the greatest impact? And so that's why we do that. And then the last base document is a renewable energy potential study. And it's just a high level, we're trying to get what's a gut feel of potential for renewable energy, rooftop, ground mounted, and what's known as carports over pavement. We do that because we've seen a lot of plans that we love that have goals that sound awesome, like we're gonna have 60% distributed renewable energy by Tuesday. And I love it, but when I've seen the community, I know like they will never get to 60% distributed energy ever. And I hate being negative, but like you know, where there's physical infrastructure, there's things that we need to understand realities, right? So that isn't to say that we don't want to get to 60 or 100% renewable energy, just is it distributed or is it some other mechanism? So we do that to try to give a starting point as to what might be kind of the right threshold. And it's not absolute, right? I mean, we can push these boundaries, but it's kind of give us enough information so we can make decisions that we feel that we know when we've crossed the boundary from kind of achievable into stretch into, I don't know, any way that we're going to do it, right? So you kind of feel those thresholds is what we're trying to do. And then all that stuff. So if you're interested in reading about 300 pages worth of content, have at it. Some of you might be as nerdy as me. I love that stuff. So you might have a life that's more than mine. So if that's the case, you can read the baseline assessment document and you get a summary of that stuff. It's organized by sector. And then there's some additional research that goes into that because we want to make sure each sector's got some baseline information that we think about. And in that document, we've also identified preliminary goals. And as I point out there, these are all process documents. And the intention is just to give this team a shared starting point. So that we all are working from the same sort of pieces of information at least. And you'll all have other pieces of information, right? And secondly, so that when we start talking about goals, we don't have to start with a blank page. You can start with a page that you can you might love, you might hate, you might have ways of refining it, but that's great. It's at least gives us a place to start together. Right? So that's what we're trying to do. When you read those goals, do not feel like if you disagree with them, that's lovely. We want that. We want you to share your ideas. And I just want to make sure that just because it's on the paper doesn't mean you have to accept it.
Is that specific to Kane County or is that a general generic document you put together?
It's it's specific to Kane County. It's a format that we use, but the data going into it is as specific to Kane County as we are humanly capable. So I say that because some data sources are national and it is what it is. Some data sources are state level and it is what it is. Some data sources are county level. So wherever possible, try to zero in on the most granular piece of information we can get. And if it doesn't exist, then we go to the next step, right? So some things you'll find in there might be regional average, for instance, heavy precipitation. The best data on that is actually regional. So, but that's okay. It still gives us a place to go.
Thank you.
Gotcha. Any other questions on any of that so far? Okay, so a little bit about the planning process itself. This is kind of a horrendous flow chart, but it's the best I can do. But it gives you a little sense of kind of what's coming. And so we're up there at number 1. I don't know if I can find, I'm sure the pointer works, but no, I don't want you to move. Okay, so we're up there at number 1. So today is all about introduction. The next meeting is going to be all about goals. So between now and the next one, if you can have a chance to read the baseline document, get a sense of the preliminary goals that we've put out there as balloons, that'd be great. And then we'll do a little bit of presentation next time to share kind of the research so that everybody, again, has the same base information. And then we're going to go into breakout sessions. Sub-team by sub-team, we're going to break out 2 rounds of them. And you guys get to start talking about the goals, what you think about them. And if we finish the goal setting conversation, that's awesome. The next meeting, we can start talking about actions. If we don't finish the goal setting conversation, that's awesome. You'll be able to talk about the goals on the next meeting, meeting 3. So that one's kind of a little flexible. Each team can kind of use it for the space that they need. But in that meeting 3, we're going to start transitioning one way or the other. We're going to start transitioning from preliminary goals into, let's start talking a little bit about actions. And so we'll probably, usually we start off with just trying to identify what we think are impediments. What do we think are issues to getting those goals? And then all of those green circles are highly collaborative meetings, very little of me talking and very much of you guys sharing ideas together. And it'll be focused on developing actions. Okay, and between the workshop sessions, there's going to be some homework for you. We have some tools to use to explore ideas, to write down ideas. And so, but we don't want it to be too onerous. typically, we've heard back that it's about 4 hours worth of work between the meetings. That's why we pace it at about one meeting a month, so that there's space for folks to kind of fit that into already busy schedules. And we have known some people that have spent way more than that, because, you know, some people have space and they are super passionate, so. But, put into it the amount that you want to and that you are able. We've had some folks that could not do a lot of the homework between, and they still contributed a lot, right? So don't feel, don't let anything be an impediment to sharing your ideas at the meetings, okay? And anyways, after those workshop sessions, then we're gonna go away for a little bit, a little stutter step between the meetings, and in January, we'll come back with a draft plan that we'll share with you all. And then that begins the draft plan review publicly. Okay, so a few things about some technology. So the team meetings, most of those from 2 all the way through 6 will be on Zoom. And in part, that's because we're a countywide team. We've got folks that are coming from lots of different places. Let's stop using gas, that means each other to talk about stop using gas. Right, and that makes a lot of sense. The other thing is actually what we discovered through the pandemic is Zoom is horrendous in certain ways, but it's really amazing as far as being able to do breakout meetings. It's extremely easy to make sure everybody gets in the right spot, you get to the right table, you can talk with your teammates, and then we all come back together instantly. It's really pretty nice for that. And the other really awesome thing is that if you've got technology to attend Zoom, you've got technology to use some of the tools that we use together. So it's really collaborative that way. But some things to know is, so everybody will need access to Zoom. So we suggest a Zoom compatible computer, laptop or desktop. Mobile device can work. However, the tools that are collaborative for putting down ideas and sharing ideas don't always work as well as the mobile devices. So if at all possible, use a computer. If you can't, that's okay. Or let us know, and we can try to figure stuff out. The other thing is that we'll have shared documents that will come to you in 2 formats. One will be Google. There'll be some Google Docs that we'll share. And then the main workhorse of our document will be coming to you through OneDrive. So it's an Excel spreadsheet that'll share through OneDrive. You'll use online Microsoft for that. By and large, the access to the online, we don't see a lot of compatibility issues, but we do, almost every team, there's 1 or 2 people that maybe they're using a work computer and work does not like you guys accessing my Google Drive or our OneDrive. So if you suspect that you might have a firewall issue, it'll just be good to check that you can access Google or access Microsoft. For everybody, as you access Google or Microsoft, it may ask you to log in. And I've started to figure out why it's doing that. I, for one, have like 3 accounts under Microsoft, and it's because they asked me like 10 years ago to create an account. I did, I don't remember it, but it does. So like I try to log into some account, it's like log in, and I'm using the one that I know that I use, and it's thinking that I should be logging in under something else. So if it asks you to log in, you do not have to purchase Microsoft, you do not have to create an account to access our documents. If it's persistent, it's because you probably already have something set up. So that's why I've just recently put it together. I had people saying, oh, keep asking me. Kind of the same thing with Google. If you have a Google account, it'll probably encourage you to sign in. You do not need to create an account for either of these though. So, and you definitely don't have to buy anything. If anything tells you have to buy it, stop and talk to me. You don't have to do it. But as I say, if you might be using a computer from work, if you wouldn't mind, I would just test. There's some shared documents already on the web page. Just grab one and see if you can download it. If you can, you're probably good. If you can do, for instance, the sign in, actually, that's a great thing. If you can do the sign up for the sub teams, you're probably golden. If you have troubles with that, talk to your work IT folks and see if they can get you access. If they have a concern and it looks like there's no way around it, just talk to me and we'll figure something out. So we won't let technology stop your ability to participate. Okay. So as I've said, I might scroll through this at the, okay. So one thing I want to share with you, sorry, I get lost on what I have, what slides I have and which ones I can move faster through. So we talked about we're going to be creating actions together. And I just want to share with you kind of, we have a tool. The tool is both awesome and horrible at the same time. It's an Excel spreadsheet. I have no life. When a climate action plan comes out anywhere in the country, I read it. If I see stuff that's cool, I put it into our tool that we call the Action Finder. And so the intent here is we do not need to recreate a wheel. In fact, that's wasted energy. That doesn't make any sense. There are communities all over the country that are focused on climate action. Why not explore what they're doing and then learn from that and decide where we want to make new things? You know? And so our Action Finder tool is an Excel spreadsheet that has the ability to be searchable. You can type in some keywords and any action with that keyword will turn blue. You just scroll through and you find it. You can also filter based on community size, what type of action it is, where the community is, etc. The horrendous part about it is that it's a massive Excel spreadsheet. I'm an Excel geek. I am very native in Excel, but I know that not everybody is. And so it's a little bit onerous for people that are not super into Excel. So I apologize in advance, but we'll try to make that tool as usable for you as possible. If this ends up being a problem, a challenge for you, do not worry about it. Write your ideas down on a Word document and share it, right? So we do not want to let technology get in the way. The great advantage of using this tool though, is that if I as a team member write comments down, my other teammates can see what I wrote also. So it ends up being collaborative even when we're offline. You know, like even between the meetings, like you can look at what other people do. Like, oh, that's a great idea. I love what they just said. Yeah, absolutely. That's great. So that's why we try to use one shared spot. But again, if it ends up being a challenge, just flag it and we'll figure something out. Another tool we're going to do, and this will be early on, is we're going to create some screening criteria together. We've got a starter on that. Again, I like the idea of throwing ideas out so people can generate their own. And the idea here is that when we'll get to a point where we're done putting ideas on the page and we'll have too many actions. We'll have too many actions to do, I promise it. And so then we need to figure out how to skinny that down. One way that we do that is we'll help to kind of navigate the ones that we know are going to be high impact GHG reductions, or that we know are going to be great foundational to get the high impact. And the other way of doing it is what best fits the community, what best fits our goal as community members. And so we're going to work together to come up with a couple of criteria against which you can do a gut check. And so just to let it be known, we've got a tool for that. That'll be one of our first meetings. Okay, so now the team page. So the team page is on our website, PaleBlueDot.LLC / I think that's a backslash, I was getting confused, Kane-cap. So you go to that website, it's the team page. It is password protected, and I will send out a password via email, and I don't mean to be cloak and dagger. It's important that we want to keep that web page to this team, because there will be stuff that you guys can access and type on, and you could delete it. We just want to protect your work until you are done thinking. We want to make sure that it doesn't get damaged. So that's why it's password protected. Everything that's done will eventually be given to the county, so we're not hiding anything. We're just protecting the process. So I'll send you the password. I suggest that you just go ahead and save the website and the password in your browser if you're able to do that, so it'll be easy for you. But in there's document downloads. So all the documents that I've talked about today and that we'll review at our next meeting, you can download them or view them right there online. There's resources for the planning team. Some things are just, we've seen questions asked before, so we put in there, like we get questions about carbon sequestration a lot, so I put some thoughts in there. There's some infographics, just sharing some of those resource documents. Those are kind of more for general public, but you know, maybe you're into infographics or maybe you want to share it with folks. And then for the team meetings, every team meeting that we have is already set up. We've got draft agendas for every one of them already in there, so you can kind of get a sense of what's in there if you like knowing things in advance. They may change, but it's a good draft. And then after each meeting, anything that comes out like this presentation will be there also. So it's a place to go to get stuff from the meetings. And then a little bit of educational content, again, we have folks that we know have asked questions, so we put stuff in there. As we go along, if we get a great question, we add more stuff to these and keep them in there. So you don't need to consume everything on the webpage. What you do need to be able to do though is get to the webpage so you can access the baseline document. Because that you will want to look at between now and the next meeting. And then the action finder tool that I talked about, you'll be able to access about there. So there's more stuff on there than you absolutely need, but we just want to give you all whatever we can to help with the process. All right. And I think we are right on time. So a little more space before we do a break for lunch. This little space again for any Q&A or discussion, any thoughts anybody wants to ask or share. So we'll go here and then there.
You talked about the timescale. This is something that reaches out decades to be accomplished. What are your thoughts and experiences regarding including, for example, a group of 10 high school students on this committee?
Yeah, we are absolute advocates of youth participation and engagement in any way possible. First of all, I will say that the application, I think actually all of you maybe came through to us through the application that's out there. We were definitely encouraging for youth submissions. We didn't see any youth submissions. But if anybody has, for instance, if any of you are representatives from municipalities, and maybe I know some cities will have or villages will have like youth commissioners or something like that. If you know something like that, if anybody has access to, maybe there's a high school sustainability team that somebody knows, it is not too late for us to create space for youth members like that. The other thing that we could do is if maybe some of you are tapped into like one of those youth groups, right? And but maybe having them participate in the team is going to be hard. We could do a focus group session also. Or in other words, well, like once we get to a certain sort of stage, it's really convenient for us to say, hey, here's our preliminary ideas and we'd love your input. And then when we get to a draft plan, hey, here's a draft plan, we'd love your input. So I think having youth participate, not just in the planning process, but also transitioning. We've done some sessions where it's been like design thinking workshops with youth after a draft plan's done to have them explore how they might participate or support the implementation. Just kind of give them an opportunity to start where they can start dreaming about the future. So yeah, we're absolute supporters, and we think actually a little more exposure here. My partner Colleen is actually just starting her PhD work on climate communications, focused on youth, because we think that climate storytelling, climate communications is an important aspect of visualizing how to create change. And there's a lot of research that's been done that says our current youth are more depressed than other generations have been because they have more negative news that they're trying to figure out how to deal with. And we believe very strongly in the fact that we can help identify, you can start contributing to change, that turns that around. You become less depressed when you know there's something you can do. So that's a long answer, but absolutely. So if anybody has access to youth that you think, hey, maybe we should see about getting them on the team, let us know. Or maybe again, if you're tapped into groups, we could try to put together like a great forum or something for that.
Well, one thing that comes to mind there is the Illinois Math and Science Academy out in Aurora, which is a very top level community high school for the county. So if someone from the county might want to reach out to them.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, what was the name of this?
Illinois Math and Science Academy.
Okay, all right, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, maybe again, it is, so if you guys are tapped in, if you have participation in youth groups like that, just let us know and we can put together like a countywide youth forum, something, right? So I think that is a powerful opportunity. Yeah.
So I really appreciate that comment first. And I also want to ask about environmental justice and equity as part of this process, if there's thoughts about increasing the diversity of the group that's involved in the conversation. That's not my main question, but I have another one.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, let me approach diversity and equity from the plan perspective, and then specifically your question about it. So first of all, is we highly encourage that teammates consider that in how actions are created. And I talked about the selection criteria. You'll see that a couple of them are focused very specifically on that. In fact, equity is one of the lenses through which we can look at actions. And honestly, almost every team ends up with equity as one of the lenses. I'm not telling you what you need to do. I'm giving you what historically I've seen, right? And we have had a couple of teams where they didn't select it, and I can't help it because I think it's important for us to think about. And it doesn't mean that we don't do actions, but it does mean like, hey, what if this action, what if we just polish this part of that action? Now it can be an equity responsive action, right? So the plan itself, I fully anticipate through our process, this team will probably help us identify equity opportunities. In terms of participation on the team, I don't know if there, I mean, we could, I know the application process was open for quite a while and the county did do a lot of promotion of it. But, you know, we are at a point where we can easily add folks to the team. So what I would suggest is, you know, much like with youth, if there's somebody that's tapped into a group that can help, or an individual that can help represent equity perspective, you know, a perspective from a group for which equity is an important consideration, an underrepresented population, et cetera. So if you have access to somebody like that you think, or a group, you know, I have great relationship with this nonprofit, and I know they tap into these groups. I mean, it's not too late for us to be able to add a couple of folks to the team. Okay, so just like the youth, I'd say if you've got somebody that's, you know, throw the ideas our way, and then, you know, maybe somebody at the county, we can even do a personal reach out or something.
So my main question was, so when we're looking at strategies and actions, I personally think it would be really helpful to understand how the county interacts with the municipalities within the county, because I think that a lot of the actions will actually have to be carried out by the municipalities. Is there an enforcement possibility? What kind of legal changes, what kind of code, are we looking at countywide code? Are we looking at working with municipalities?
Ted gratefully lets me.
Yeah, please.
We've given this a lot of thought, and we have no jurisdiction within the municipalities, but we have influence. We can help, especially for the smaller municipalities that can't ever afford a sustainability director or sustainability board. We are here to open up these opportunities to them, and we are trying to get them involved as much as possible, so that when we're done, they can adapt the climate action plan for themselves. And we will, you know, maybe at the end of the day, we'll have an appendix for Big Rock, or an appendix for Hampshire, or an appeals where there will be specific and careful you know, special things for each municipality.
And the other thing, I'll add on, that's a beautiful answer, I'm glad you gave it. But the reality is that also that even if we all were representing one municipality, the same question arises. But it's now, how do we get households, businesses, organizations to do some of the actions that we want to see done? Because when we're talking about municipal operations or county operations affecting change there, that's not necessarily easy peasy, but it's something that's fully within the authority of the county to do its own operations, right? But when we're talking community-wide, we're talking about individuals and businesses in addition to the authority. And so usually and we'll cover this when we start talking about actions, but there's kind of 4 types of actions. I think of it 4 groups. And one is, my brain just disappeared. One is legislative, right? That's not actually the term I use, but making requirements, that's the term we use. So, yeah. So requiring stuff, you know, and so we can require stuff through zoning or through policy. And in the United States, typically our appetite for requirement is, you know, we're okay with it, but then there's kind of a threshold, right? From after which we start losing people. So, but typically in a plan, there are some suggestions for requirements, like, hey, review your zoning ordinance to encourage whatever. The second level is about showing by example. So that's where we can leverage, the county has property, the county has facilities, the county has a budget, the county buys stuff. So, and the same thing with the municipalities. So how might they be able to do things and then use that as a way of illustrating to folks how they can do it too? And lessons learned, like, hey, we love this, but don't do it the way we did it. You should do it this way instead, because we discovered that way was a bad way. This way is much better. So we can teach a lot of people just by doing and sharing what we've done, just making sure that they understand it.
Leadership.
Yeah, exactly. Leading through doing and sharing it out so that they can see. The third then is about just informing. I mean, a lot of people will ask, what can I do? And a lot of people think of climate change as a global problem. Of course it is. And so they think that the answers are global, which of course it is, but it's also like stuff that I do is actually impactful. Here's some things you can do. Or, hey, I'd love to get my home more efficient, but I don't quite have the money. Yeah, but did you know there's $14,000 available through tax incentives right now to do these things? So how can we help inform folks so that they can choose for themselves the ways that they want to make change? And then the last is incentivizing, and we're entering an amazing period of incentivization, those grants that I talked about. I mean, literally.
Thanks for calling Patty with and I'm a Medicare health representative. They qualify for additional Medicare benefits at no cost to you.
If you have your microphone, if you wouldn't mind.
Gary, you.
Stay with me on the line while I connect you with the Medicare specialist.
I'm sorry, it's not a convenient time for that.
Gary, Swift, please mute yourself.
Okay, that's always fun. It was really fun in 2020, wasn't it? Your camera's on. Yes.
Okay, we're good. Oh, specific question. Does the action planner include education institutions, higher ed, that kind of stuff, or is it just municipalities coming?
The plans that we've put in there are local government and some state stuff. Now, that doesn't mean that many of the actions could be as applicable to a college or a school as they are to a business or home. But the example actions that are in there have all been harvested from local government, county or municipal plans. Yes,
Sorry, I hate to delay lunch.
No.
One more question, but
we're still on track.
in terms of scope, I would imagine much of this is going to focus on actions of the county. Knowing that our county is made up of a lot of departments and divisions, like I would hate for one of our decisions. Sorry. I would hate for one of our suggestions to be, add a bike lane to every county road, and for the Division of Transportation to say, well, that's not feasible because we don't have easements or right of way to do that. So how do we prevent ourselves from going down a rabbit hole that somebody who's skilled in that particular division or department would say, that's not a right idea, maybe steer towards this direction? Is there a touch base we can have sometime in the process?
Yeah.
We do have members from several of our departments here today. We got transportation, we got agriculture, we got health department, we got trees and green spaces, development, and recycling. So thank you to all King County staff over here.
And the other thing that I like to say is that, so part of this is a visionary process. So we absolutely want actions that can be implemented. It's also okay to have some actions that we want to see implemented, and yet we're not entirely certain how to get over certain hurdles. That's okay too, right? Because to get big goals, we need big ideas. Some big ideas don't come with a clear path. So it ends up being a combination of things. So just to go with that same fun example, maybe we just we need bike lanes on every county road, and maybe that's a thing, right? And so we can put that in there, but then we may have some other aspects that are like, okay, this is what we could do next year, and then maybe here's some actions that can help us set up a path to get into this big picture goal that we really would like to see. So it's kind of a combo of all of that. Yeah.
I was curious to know if, based on your historical experience, if there were any specific challenges that were unique for county level planning or broader scope that don't necessarily apply us?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say there's a few challenges. The first is exactly this, that was brought up over here, the idea that, as a county plan, I mean, there are some things that we could, I suppose there might be some requirements that we can do that could leverage municipalities, but by and large, what we're talking about is influencing, encouraging, incentivizing, educating. Hey, and we'll have some powerful tools. Hey, Kane County municipalities, our plan's done in January, February. Guess what? Here's $1 billion grant from the EPA. If we get our stuff together, we can submit on that and have a powerful opportunity of getting funding, right? So we'll have ways of helping to encourage people to think about how to participate, but that is a challenge.
As far as we can figure out, we are the first county to try to do this, so. So we have no idea what the answer is to your question.
And another special challenge to countywide is just think about the communities in the county. We got Elgin, Aurora, we got St. Charles, we got smaller communities. And so like the thing that worked, the key stumbling blocks or key needs in Elgin are different from the key needs or stumbling blocks in another community, right? And so there's especially for Kane County. I mean, other counties, it's not quite as pronounced, but I mean, there's a lot of that elasticity that we can think about. And so, and I think that just based on the team members' experience, we have a nice, robust team. People will probably have different experience, and some folks may tend to thinking about one side of the elastic range, and some might think about, that's totally cool. I mean, so just represent the perspective that you have, and that will help us create a potpourri. And then ultimately what comes out of this might be, I mean, we think of it certainly as a plan that can give Kane County direction. But as Mavis was pointing out, maybe the next step is to create little toolkits where we start saying, hey, for small communities, we've pre-refined some actions that we suggest you consider, you know, or for the mid-sized community, here's some, and here's all the other stuff. So we're not telling you no, we're just trying to help you make that step. So maybe that could be a first implementation action, is to put that sort of thing together. I'm sorry.
Is the Kane County action, climate action plan going to include a grant writer?
So not as a part of our deliverable, no. I mean, we won't have a grant writer participating in this plan development. But I definitely anticipate that there's going to be some conversation, and there's going to be one of those cross-pollinating actions, I can tell you, will be, let's keep the eye on the ball for grants. And, you know, put together a process, a tool of attack to track grants and decide how you want to submit for grants and make sure you've got the right mechanism in place to do that.
Here's a grants have been from the Illinois EPA to fund light duty charging stations. And there's a list that appears to be funds that have been allocated across the state of Illinois. And when I look at the list, it does include Kane County, and I'm wondering who applied for that.
Yeah, that I don't know.
That was that the Department of Environment?
It
Are
just
you
says
reading
Illinois.
the
Yeah.
people today?
So,
No, this was a week ago.
so there was just a press release that went out, I think this week or last week. Yeah, thank you.
Well, here it is.
Electric vehicle, companies, applied for this grant fund. And they applied for locations of, the EV chargers in different areas throughout Kane County.
So municipalities didn't get to choose where they wanted them. The company that got the grant money is gonna tell us where they're going to put these EV chargers. See, that is big.
Yes, so there was just, and we just found out about this, this week. However, there is another, Department of, I think it's Department of Environment, or it's a federal grant opportunity that we were informed about called the Charging Fueling Infrastructure.
Yeah. EPA has also issued, we've actually put together a team and we're tracking grants.
So we're aware.
And so we've started to do that, but, and I can say that there's going to be a lot of grants around it, and I like your question because the idea, I mean, it's great that some grants are aimed for companies, like, hey, this is available
Okay.
to businesses, right? Some are aimed at municipalities
Those are the
or
ones
governments.
Yeah.
I'm curious where we'll be on the list after the corporations have got their share.
Yeah, and some do both, right?
So it's there.
I'm working on getting a position in the environmental and water department. I'm calling so far the Inflation Reduction Act and Climate and Equitable Jobs Act implementation coordinator.
So I want to make a comment about the corporations deciding where the charging stations are gonna be. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because they have the money to do the analysis to figure out where they're most likely to be used. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, that the corporate money that, got it.
The press release that just went out did have a lot of charging stations being put in Kane County as well as other surrounding counties.
Like $500 million.
Yeah, there's a lot of money out there right now.
And we applied for a grant for EV charging stations, which
That will
it's not
yeah.
even a competitive. Was that
We applied for a grant program with the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, an aggregated program to put in charging stations that are owned by the county and for public use. So we will find out about that in the next couple of days.
Thanks.
Okay, let's do maybe, I see one more hand. Let's do one more question, then let's take a break for lunch. And we may peel that lunch. Let's do maybe 15-minute lunch break. You can keep eating, but well, we'll see. Maybe that's not a great idea, because I just realized it's gonna be introduction, so somebody's gonna be like, we'll figure out. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I've been working with the municipalities to try to help.
Stand up, Chris.
Grant.
Chris, stand up, please.
And a lot of it is they haven't done the due diligence to go after the grant. They don't know where, they don't just sort of cooperate. They haven't talked to ComEd to make sure there's power supply for these grants. So there's, something we've been talking to communities about is do this planning, do this due diligence. I think we'll see that in this plan. And now, I believe just yesterday, the direct pay incentives, the forms from IRS came out, and that will be incentives for municipalities and tax organizations such as school districts. So that's a whole nother level of basically funding for them to do. That's a 2 cents.
If you do the work, you get the money.
Right. Well, that's the rule of
Yes.
Bio is going to be available on that website so that we can see who's in the room without having to remember the introductions today.
I'm not sure about bio per se, but we do have, well, we can give a team. Well, it's true, I suppose we could,
We could share information
yeah,
Is that okay with
if
everybody?
everyone's comfortable with that.
yeah, so we can.
Say yes or no.
And yes.
If anybody has a concern with that, send us a
Yeah,
note,
let us know.
within the next couple of days, and then we'll put something together. Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and let's do a 20-minute break. Let's live large, 20-minute lunch break. And then we'll just figure out if we're running a little late on time. I'll shut up that.
For people in the room, we have food, there's more sandwiches coming, so feel free to help yourself. The bathrooms are right outside to the left, if you need to use the restroom, and for folks online, feel free to go take a break and we'll come back in 20 minutes.
Yeah, at 12:37, we'll reconvene.
So take one piece and then we have one.
Or folks in Zoom, it's a little harder to keep up with the big Zoom there for the. So let's bring it to order here. Thank you. So the one question I want to answer online, and then we'll do questions, is the question from online was, what can we do to influence encouraging EV infrastructure? I'm paraphrasing, I think, the question, but hopefully that's honest, that's a close enough paraphrase. It's a great question. And I would say the idea of what can we do to support EV infrastructure, it's the same kind of question. What can we do to support more renewable energy on rooftops? And what can we do to support more replacement of lawns with prairie restoration or trees, or a lot of these things we're talking community-wide. It really comes down to figuring out how can we help leverage people making better decisions for all of us. And so there's the same kind of mechanisms come into play. And so I'll do it through the idea of EVs. One is we can do some studies to identify where are the best places for EV chargers. So we can identify, we can proactively do some work to try to figure out where do we want to encourage that stuff to happen. We want it to happen everywhere, but where would the most impactful ones be? If you've got money for one charger, what's your number one priority place to put it? Same thing with tree, solar, etc. So doing some work, and so the county can do some planning. Let's do some studies, let's identify, let's put together that information. The second is we can share that information. We can also, with that kind of information, as grants come around, which we are thankfully in a zone that we can say there's going to be money. I know, because there's billions of dollars that are going to come out in one way or another. We can use that information, the county can use that information to put together grants, to coordinate with municipalities or other entities in the county to go competitively. Let's go get some of that funding for Kane County and make a difference. We can also do things that are we might put some encouragements together, like maybe there's some incentivization. We can share incentivizations with cities, for instance. Hey, maybe there's certain requirements that are well, requirements is a strong word, we can get there. But one could be an encouragement that says, hey, if you submit for a planning application, if you have an EV charger or at least being EV ready or solar ready, we're going to give you something. We're going to move you to the front of the line. We're going to make your review process shorter. Maybe there's a discount on your review costs. I don't know. I mean, right? There's things that we can do that make life easier for people that are trying to do good decisions. And then there's requirements. You know, there might be ways that we can mechanize some kind of requirements to encourage the sorts of things that we're looking for. So those same tools of educating, leading by example, incentivizing and requiring, we can kind of put those potpourris together to do all of these sorts of things. And then just depending on what the subject is, maybe there isn't the requirement that we talk about, but there is an encouragement or incentivization, or how can we make life easier for people trying to do this thing? So hopefully that answers the question online, but it's certainly not our only time to chat about that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go around the room virtually and in person. And actually, I suggest we start with the folks on Zoom, because why shouldn't we? Let's see, okay, stop sharing. We're going to stop sharing so that we in the room can have the benefit of seeing folks if you're able to turn on your camera when you're talking. What I might do is I'll just kind of read off names, and I'm sorry if I slaughter anybody's name. I have a tendency of doing that. But I put up on the screen, oh shoot, I took the screen down. The idea is just, you know, introduce, it's a simple introduction, introduce who you are. If if you're a resident of a community, you can just say that. If you represent a group, like, hey, maybe I'm a part of a nonprofit and that's part of the reason why I'm here, or I'm in a municipality or what have you. So if you have some kind of an affiliation, just share whatever you'd like to about that. And then just something about yourself that you would like to share with the group. Could be what you're most, why are you doing this? What motivated you to participate? What are you excited about most? What are you most concerned about? What do you hope most to get out of this process? Or some other thing that you think would be great for all of us to hear. So it doesn't have to be big and onerous, just an opportunity to share something about yourself so we all get to know each other a little bit. So Terry, Terry Rotherbaum, you're the first person I'm seeing here, so I'm going to ask you if you wouldn't mind starting off.
Sure. Can you hear me right now?
You bet.
Okay, so my name is Perry Rothenbaum. I work with a semiconductor company in power electronics, and we help engineers with their green initiatives, you know, EV charging, solar, and wind, everything that's kind of green. We help those designs get completed and get into production and into society. Thank you.
How about Paul Manch? Sorry if I mispronounced the name.
Hi, I'm Paul Manch. I'm a scientist emeritus from Fermilab. That means I'm retired. I'm very concerned about the climate crisis. And in fact, 40 years ago, my wife and I built a passive solar home. And we've been living in it. It's a great thing. Of course, we learned a lot of lessons, which we will be happy to share.
And how about Gary Swin? Oh, you're on mute, Gary.
Oh, I was challenging everybody. All right. Hi, Gary Swick. I'm an Elgin resident. I'm usually represent Friends of the Fox River. I'm affiliated with several other organizations, and it's just a serious thing. And I want to help any way I can.
And Gary, are the birds we're hearing, is that coming in your place there?
Yep, that's my yard.
You might have to be a special soundtrack for our meetings. Awesome. And then next I'm seeing, is it Sean? E?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
My name is David Shankonecht. I'm a Kane County certified naturalist, an Elgin resident. Over the past year, I've been working with the Illinois Geological Survey, Dr. Brandon Curry, and we've been doing some work in regard to Glacial Lake Pingree, which is a large glacial lake that existed in the northern part of our county. All our creeks feed from that lake, and I'm just curious about how some of these spaces that we have now as rural help preserve sustainable development in our county.
Next, how about Christina Pierce?
Hi, I'm Christina Pierce. I'm a resident of Aurora, and I've been like casually environmental. So like our family, we do things for the environment, but this is my first time trying to kind of get involved in a larger group with a larger impact.
Awesome. We like casual environments. Yeah. Casual and formal, it's all accepted. How about Laura Newman?
Unmute myself there. Hi, I'm Laura Newman. I'm the city administrator in Batavia, and City of Batavia has passed resolutions adopting the goals of the Greenest Region Compact and the Climate Action Plan. And there are several of the things that are listed in those documents that the city is doing now, but we recognize that we could be doing a lot more. And we want to make sure that we're coordinating our efforts between what we're doing here locally and being able to, mesh that with what is happening at the county level.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Finn.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry, and I just rejoined. My boss overbooked me in the middle of this meeting. I apologize for that. So I'm you know how it is, right? I'm a resident of West Dundee, become a lot more concerned about climate. I mean, it's kind of been an ongoing disaster over my lifetime. I'm 47, and I really don't want to leave it the way it's going for my kids, right? And hopefully grandkids. So I'm here to learn what I can do and hopefully help push this forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Janice Hill. Janice, are you there?
Oh, you're on mute. If you already have.
Yeah, if you're on there, we can hear you.
I can.
Janice Hill.
Janice works for Kane County,
Oh,
Agriculture.
in agriculture, and she's gonna be a valuable asset to this team because she has local connections with farmers and works alongside another, member of the team.
we can't hear you, Medicare.
Oh, sorry. Janice Hill works for Kane County, in agriculture, and we will have her introduce herself at another time, but she'll be a valuable asset to this team.
Awesome. And if she comes back, if it becomes available while we're doing introductions, so we can always look out. And then it looks like the last online person is just iPhone 2, and it looks like maybe she just sent a chat.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who is user iPhone 2? Yeah, Donna, is that right?
Donna, yeah.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, Donna Lair?
Yeah, Ted, do you wanna read the?
Oh, yeah, Donna
Lair,
Lair, a farmer, disabled, from Big Rock, environmental planning masters and environmental advocacy interests. That's great.
Donna Lair.
Lair.
Yeah, L-E-A-D. F-R-U. Awesome. And then, there's a Lori's iPhone.
Well, is it me, the Lori Edwards, probably, right
Yeah.
here? Okay, hello, I live in St. Charles, and I actually work for DuPage County in stormwater management. I've been doing that for the last 8 years, and I have been doing environmental consulting before I had kids for 15 years we was doing for landfill gas energy, the methane collection, renewable energy, for the EPA climate division, called the Landfill Methane Outreach Program, and traveled all over the world and in the Midwest to promote projects. So looking forward to be involved locally.
There's a board member there today. I'm sure he's breathing.
So is there anybody, aside from Mavis and Ivy, is there any other person that's on Zoom that has not had the opportunity to introduce themselves? If so, just go right ahead and unmute and do something.
I think that might be everybody.
Okay. So I'm gonna put the thing back up on the screen, not because we don't want to see awesome people online, but that way everybody has a reminder of kind of the thing you can share. But we'll start off with Mavis.
My name is Mavis Bates, and I am a member of the Kane County Board, elected member of the Kane County Board for District 4, which is roundabout Aurora University on the west side of Aurora. I am the chairman of the Energy and Environmental Committee. So I believe I'm the one who got this ball rolling in the first place. I wanted a climate action plan. I want to thank my good friend Sandy Camden, who kept saying, Mavis, climate change, climate change, climate change. So, okay, so here we are today, in part to Sandy Camden. And so I believe it will be my responsibility in many ways to keep this momentum going over maybe many more years to come. So, and thank you everybody for being here, but thank yourselves. I don't know unless anyone, everybody did this.
Hello, everybody. You probably have all received an email from me at some point in time. My name is Ivy Clee. I'm Kane County's Resource Management Coordinator, and I work on sustainability and stormwater projects at the county. And this has been a really fun project to work on, in addition to all the other awesome sustainability projects the county has going. All right.
And we can just pass the microphone around. We'll just do this like little Mr. Microphone. We'll
We're
just
gonna
pass it
pass
person
the
to person.
microphone.
Kind of zigzag down through the rows.
Suppose we should stand up.
Yeah.
My name is, chairs and my name is Cheryl Brumbaugh Capert. I professionally work in communications for the Church of the Brethren denomination. Our headquarters are in Elgin. On the side, I help co-coordinate Elgin Area Climate Action Now with Vivian. We've been very concerned about the climate for several years, and our group is the one that helped move Elgin City Council to declare a climate emergency in 2020. And we're trying to make implementation start to happen ever since.
My name is Vivian Bailey, part of Elgin Climate Action Now, along with Cheryl Kayford. Getting acquainted with people who are very passionate about the environment has been enlightening for me. My passion is more about the process of how we are going to implement these initiatives that people have talked about over the kitchen table for many years. I want to help move that forward. I want to see some resolution to the concerns that my friends have shared, that they've talked about way before I ever moved to Elgin and met them. I'm real interested in the process, and I want to thank Kane County for presenting a plan that'll help us get there.
My name is Jan Buckley. I'm an accountant. I'm a St. Charles resident. I'm involved because I'm very concerned about climate change. I helped one of my daughters with a gold award last year. We did it on plastic recycling, and it was a real eye opener. And, you know, it came out of this whole thing super concerned. You know, I was talking to these ladies here a few minutes ago, we had a break, and I was talking about, it's ironic that we're starting today with the skies like they are. And I don't know if everybody realized, this is the Canadian fire down here and what it's done to our air today. So it's kind of like a sign that we're going in the right direction today.
Yeah, I had a community meeting last night for a climate action plan in Minnesota. And we were at like 300 plus parts per million, and the sky was literally like yellowish. Not like we saw in New York, but like my throw is wrong. Yeah, people ask if we coordinate those events. We don't.
Hi, my name is John Glenn. I'm originally from England. My background is first of all mechanical engineer. I actually worked on some nuclear power stations, not the nuclear side, on the generation side. Then became in marketing world. So studying what people do and how they do it, and why they don't do it or do it. And I did some financial work. In the last 20 years, been a realtor. I've been not anymore, but was president of homeowners association. So there's a lot of issues with homeowners and what they want, don't want. You know, when it comes to like townhomes, you know, how do you put in things and how do you put roof things, because they don't want that. So there's a lot of issues, and I just think back to my physics teacher 50 years ago who said, you know, one of these days we're going to have fusions. Well, we're still 20 years away, but we got a huge problem. So I'm excited for the county, Mavis and Kareem for putting this together. We're going to do this. Thanks. I'm from St. Charles, by the way.
Hi, everyone. I am so happy to be on this committee. For my wife and I live in retirement in Batavia, Illinois. But after traveling for my job for the last 40 years around the globe, and I found that our desire is to live lightly on the earth. And so what we're doing in retirement is raising the garden and also improving our house so that by this time next year, it will be down to about 5% of the energy use of an average Midwestern house. So we're really proud of that. We're trying. We're not perfect, but we are trying.
Who's your name?
Patrick McVeigh.
Patrick. Thank you.
My name is Paul Anderson. I'm a Geneva resident. Mostly retired after some 30 years as a professor of environmental engineering, and doing this because I think it's very important. But also, if I'm candid with you, from a selfish perspective, I'm doing it because over those 30 years, people I worked with told me I had this really obnoxious optimism all the time. I feel like it's been slipping the last couple of years.
My name is Lucas King. I'm a Blackberry Township resident, and I'm a retired clergyman in the United Church of Christ. I'm also in the Fox River Ecosystem Partnership, and I help out with the Conservation Foundation. One of the things that strikes me and why I want to be a part of this conversation is just the overall sense of loss that happens in this conversation. both from the sense of what are we gonna lose if we don't mitigate the impacts of climate change, but also what are we losing as we adapt to climate change, and making sure that all voices are heard at this table and all people are cared for as we go through these transitions.
My name is Penny Casper. I'm a retired physicist from Fermilab, and in my retirement, I am now president of Fermilab Natural Areas, which is a volunteer group which does habitat restoration on the Fermilab site. I'm just very happy to be on the committee because you feel as an individual, what can I do? But being part of the big group, something which I think is really good.
Hello, my name is Israel Sandoval. I'm from Carpentersville, Illinois. I'm a retired United States Army, United States Armed Corps of Engineers. I currently, my background is basically on underground infrastructure, sewer, wastewater, and what I do now, since I'm retired, I generally, I'm a grower, I'm a horticulturist, and I have seen a lot of challenges in the last 5 years in trying to grow my garden and to grow for food production. And how do we do that going forward? And more importantly, I'm a father too. And what are they gonna do? And that's what I'm here for, because if I owe them anything, is to leave them somewhere where they probably to do.
I'm Tom Armstrong. I'm a retired city planner from City of Aldrin. Currently chair of the Sustainability Commission in the City of Aldrin. And we're a lot of other volunteer heads in Eldon and with Kane County. So I'm a dad, I'm a grandfather. So I'm concerned about my little granddaughter's River's future and the environment that she is going to grow up in. So I really believe, and I think history has shown over the last decade or so, that the rubber really meets the road at the local level when it comes to addressing the impacts of climate change, and beginning to look at ways that we can adapt to climate change, because those changes that are coming that we're not going to be able to reverse in our lifetimes are significant. So.
Hi, my name is Robin McGalla. Gary Swick is Elgin's Lorax, but I am also a grumpy but adorable creature who eats for the trees. I'm Elgin's Greeniac at Large, I think is my title. And what motivates me? I think it was God, because I was born this way. Because I have no other explanation, and it is like a stalker, and it used to be that, but now it's actually Greta Thunberg's panic. That's what's motivating me now, is Greta Thunberg's panic, and I'm there with her. I'm in panic mode, and it's really hard to stay nice when you're in panic
Yes,
mode.
it is.
Yes.
When you're mad all the time.
Yeah, it's getting hard, and I'm scared, and now I like burst out in tears, so be careful, that might happen. And why am I participating? That's a really important question, because I've been feeling like stepping away. And there's something about this particular plan that seems like they might actually get some action out of this. I just have this sense. The quality of the work that I'm seeing so far is impressive. And I'm grateful, Mavis, that you got elected and that you are pushing the river in the place that you're pushing the river. And I hope that the river that flows through Elgin pushes the municipality the same. And what do I want to see is, I want to see action. And I've been hearing that a lot, is like, let's stop talking and we got to start doing. So that's me.
Yeah, maybe then we can come back.
Well, that's lots of fun. I'm Matt Tansley. I'm a planner with Kane County Developments and Community Services. As part of my function with the county, I report to the Kane County Regional Planning Commission, which oversees the development and implementation of the Kane County Comprehensive Plan. Tom Armstrong and Lucas Tanner are also on the Regional Planning Commission too, so we appreciate their participation as well. I do also report to the Kane County Agriculture Committee on projects related to farmland protection and local foods, and the county does have a lot of policies, plans related to supporting local food infrastructure as well. So I'm just looking at this plan and just trying to understand how there can be continuity between this and those other plans.
My name is Claire Ryan. I'm Kane County's recycling program coordinator and work pretty closely with Ivy. I'm also a resident of North Aurora. And I work on a couple of state work groups, including the Illinois Food Scrap and Composting Coalition and the Illinois Recycling Foundation. So I'm excited to be able to kind of take ideas that we're working on to those groups as a sounding board, but also bring back ideas that folks outside of Kane County have, especially on the waste side, about how to get this done. What motivates me to participate would be Kane County residents who I speak to on a daily basis. And I'm excited to, really dig into how we can, the solid waste components of this plant, both dealing with waste in different and innovative ways instead of throwing countless food into the landfill to become methane. But also just thinking about waste reduction, because the inorganic part of our waste is either made from fossil fuels or made with fossil fuels. So we've got to cut down the waste. Yeah.
That's okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Melissa Burlingame. I'm a somewhat recent transplant to Batavia. I work for Northern Illinois University, the Institute for the Study of the Environment, Sustainability, and Energy. Been working in the energy realm for 15-ish years. And also looking to find ways to engage the community, because we often don't think we have an impact, but we really do. So, and we have students who can be resources to this group. So,
Whoa.
There you go.
About our connection.
Hi, my name is Rod Oxenbaum. I'm the Vice President of the Geneva Library Board. I worked for 4 members of Congress, most recently Bill Foster, and I've been organizing since 2016, primarily in the realm of gun violence prevention. I want to include environmental advocacy into that realm as well. Speaking as a young resident of Kane County, as a Gen Z resident, I want to be living here for as long as I possibly can. I want the local economy here, and I want the local environment here to be the absolute best it can possibly be, the absolute most sustainable it can possibly be. So, and I'm coming here from the perspective of being Gen Z, and thinking not just of my generation, but of future generations that we're going to be leaving behind.
Hi, I'm Susan Myers. I'm a retired East Aurora 4th grade teacher. And then I worked for 15 years for the Kane County Farm Bureau doing their education. So education is my thing. And also recycling and the environment are my things. I totally care a lot about it. I live in St. Charles, and I've been on our tree commission since it began, and we're now the Natural Resources Commission. So I represent them, and I also am a Kane County certified naturalist, like Dave was saying.
What town?
St. Charles. And this has been my interest for years, and I'm really glad to be on this.
Hi, I'm Karen Miller. I'm an executive planner with the Kane County Development Department, and also Illinois co-chair of the newly designated Fabulous Fox Water Trail, which uses climate aspects in the water trail. I'm also co-chair of the Trees and Green Infrastructure Working Group for the Chicago Region Trees Initiative out of the Morton Arboretum. I've been an environmentalist since I've been in high school. I would say I am frustrated at climate change and the science deniers, because what I learned in school was that science is fact. So I'm very excited that Kane County is taking this on. And as a Kane County employee, I've been wanting this to happen for probably the last 15 years, my 23 years here at Kane County, so, thank you.
Thank you, Karen.
Hi, my name is Bob Capo. I live in the Dundee area. I have a daughter living and not breathing in New York City. She's actually been working on Broadway, started just before the pandemic shut everything down. Anyway, I came into green in the other direction. Instead of green environment, I started with this green and saving the money in my wallet, but they mesh and they work together, and I've become more and more interested in everything else, green technology and climate change. We built a super insulated passive solar house way back in 1989. Got the electric vehicle 5 years ago, the solar panels 4 years ago. I've been doing volunteer outreach with the Illinois Solar Education Association to promote solar, with Citizens Utility Board, which is again doing a solar group purchase in the Chicago area. And maybe the most interesting volunteer work I do is for NASA JPL. And I'm just going to plug that by saying that Apollo 8 Earthrise picture is the picture that started the green movement.
That's true. Okay.
I'm Ernie Schravel. I've been a Aurora resident for the last 34 years, just south of Aurora University. Mavis used to be my rep to the redistricting. But I've been in the utility industry for almost 35 years. Worked with NICOR and Progressive Energy Group for the last 12 years. And we really got into solar with Future Energy Jobs Act. We were with a couple dozen, while I'm here, we work with a couple dozen current Kane County governmental entities, everything from towns, the villages, school districts, water reclamation districts. And most of them are gonna do solar here or have done solar. So I'm a big, I love solar. And I approached, he said, I approached it for money savings, not necessarily a environment, but they work hand in hand. I've never seen a solar project not saving any money, and you get all the environmental attributes for free. So why I'm here is I want to continue pushing solar very hard in Kane County to not just government agencies, but businesses and all the way to residential.
Hi there, I'm Kathleen Donahue. I'm a resident of Geneva. I have a master's degree in ecological restoration, and I want to put that to work. I'm also a high school biology teacher, so I can maybe find some of those kids, lots of them, who could contribute. This is a passion of mine. This is like a dream come true that you are here doing this, and that I can actually be part of this. I think it's so important to work on maintaining our ecosystem. Our ecosystem support us. That's why I teach my students every year. And if we don't maintain our ecosystem, we will not be maintaining ourselves. So thank you everybody for being here.
Hi, my name is Jennifer O'Connell. I'm with the DOT. I work for the Kane County Division of Transportation. I'm the chief of design, and I manage our 40+ projects in design, and we've got about 30 in construction this summer. And loving nature, having a connection to nature, and conserving our environments is a passion of mine. And now with a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, also it's the same interests and amount of behavior I'd like to see from them too.
Hi, I'm Sandy Catherine, and Mavis gives me too much credit, but I do aggravate people. Sure wish I had this gentleman's problem being accused of being an optimist. So I'm so glad we're doing this. It started with inconvenient truth, and it's, you know, if you really get into it, you just do the action. Don't go as far as you can into it. Just act. Get the actions going, because that's the only thing that's going to save us. I'm currently the chair of a small Elgin green groups, 350.org, and legal and voters to get the word out with them. AAW, maybe a little bit. And anyway, I can with my church too. So thank you. Glad you guys are helping.
Hi, my name is Mary Ann McNally. I live in Mill Creek. I am an engineer who is 6 months away from retirement, which means I will have time now to contribute back to my community. I am just thrilled to be a part of this group. I'm amazed at the people that I just met and the passion that you show. I have felt that climate is a #1 concern for our world, and we as humanity need to fix that. And we're problem solvers. Engineers are problem solvers. I have read all the documents already. I am excited to be a part of this organization and the work that we're going to do. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Craig Schneider. I own a small residential, or should say, multifamily and single family decarbonization firm. With Chris Murphy, I helped write Naperville's climate action plan. I'm a member of the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, ABBY group, Advanced Building Energy Efficiency Policy. But I'm not here representing a group, I'm here representing myself. This is something I care about, and I've devoted my life to it. I do a lot of work in emerging technology, running research and development projects. I also do work with individuals to see real world point of use installation of products and projects. And I don't consider myself an optimist or a pessimist. I'm a pragmatist. I look at what the end game is, and I'm willing to lose a fight to win the war. And I hope that we don't lose a fight, but we're all here to get the same thing done, and I'm gonna do my part to accomplish that.
Hi, everyone. I'm Abby Beck. I am on Batavia City Council, and I'm also on staff with the Conservation Foundation. I ran for City Council after completing the America Walks Walking College Fellowship. And so supporting and promoting active and sustainable and equitable transportation has been the goal of mine for many, many years. And then on the Conservation Foundation side, nature-based solutions and incorporating the prairies, the native plants, stormwater management into our communities is really important. I'm just so excited to see so many Batavia residents here and get this plan pushed through in Batavia as quickly as possible.
Good afternoon. My name is Susan Russo. I worked for 37 years as an attorney in Aurora and the Tri-Cities area. And during that time, I advocated for a lot of issues, primarily library, education, and voters' rights. And I retired in January 2022 and found that I needed to fill my busy life with more busy things. And I looked no further than my 2 lovely granddaughters and decided that if I were going to do anything, I needed to ensure, first of all, that they would have a healthy and safe life. And I needed to do something about climate change. So with that in mind, I have thrown myself into this whole process. I have joined the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition and 2 groups that work statewide on the Prairie State and municipal utilities issues. I'm a member of League of Women Voters. I've been for 20 years and am on their climate committee. And I have been invited and have been on the Batavia Climate Action Committee. So I am beyond thrilled to be here and add another dimension by being on this Kane County climate action team. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Brandon Norris. I'm a resident of Schenectady, lifelong resident of King County. We've been interested in environmental causes for very long time. Oh, sorry. Yes, as long as I remember doing that. I don't really have any specific skills that I'm bringing. I did recently go through weatherization of my house, plan to do the whole house electrification. Recently got my first electric vehicle, so excited about that. So hopefully bring some of that experience. I was a project manager by trade, so hopefully that'll it'll help, and I'm just happy that this opportunity exists, and hopefully I can help out.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Zane. I am a Batavia resident. I'm also the community health planner at Kane County Health Department. So I would say, my passion is health equity. Don't have a lot of background in climate action, but I hope to bring some kind of expertise in terms of health equity, and we do a community health improvement plan, which goes for 3 years. And we do have a community health assessment coming up in the fall, which informs that. So I do hope that this plan can inform our community health improvement plan, and they can kind of work together.
Hi, I'm Alice Duchesne, and I live in St. Charles. I worked for years in higher education as a career advisor and an academic advisor. I was at NAU for a little while. Also at North Central College. And over the past 8 years, seeing the changes in students' level of anxiety and depression, it is off the charts. So I am doing this because I have young adult children and I have worked with young adults, and just seeing what they are afraid of. I can't just do my part in a little way at home. I have to do more. So that's why I'm here. And like Melissa, I have an awareness of colleges in the area, community colleges, and what they can do. So I'm more than happy to bring that. I also was on the City of St. Charles Corridor Improvement Commission for 8 years, I think. And they give grants to businesses to improve the landscaping around the business. I was the only person on that committee who advocated for native plantings over and over and over and over again. And the landscapers who came in, what are you talking about? What plants? So the fact that the availability isn't there, the knowledge isn't there, we need to change that. We need to change the aesthetic. So that's what I'm thinking.
My name is Chris Law, and I'm an Elgin resident.
Nice and quick. I'm Chris Murphy. I am an Aurora resident. I chair the Sustainable Aurora Advisory Board. Mavis is on our board. She's a very long-standing member. I also am on NEST, which is Naperville Environment and Sustainability Task Force. I joined when I was a city employee, and as Craig mentioned, we were on the team that wrote the Sustainable Naperville 2036 plan. I'm also a Climate Reality Chicago board member. I chair their Suburban Climate Action Planning Committee. And recently I co-founded a nonprofit called Accelerate Climate Solutions to try to help the implementation, fill those gaps. And professionally, I'm an atmospheric scientist and a water resources engineer, and I'm a certified climate change professional. So thank you.
Hello, my name is Kat Gertz. I am a resident of Aurora as of February of 21. Before that, I lived north of the O'Hare latitude. So my life has all been north of here, so I'm still trying to orient myself with everything here. I have worked and volunteered in sustainability for over a decade. Currently, I work for the Canyon DuPage Soil and Water Conservation District. That is hell to answer the phone with. I put 2 sons on this planet, and as I've heard from several others of you, I want to leave them in a place that they're going to be able to thrive in.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alexa Smith. I am resident of Geneva. I'm an author of a book about zero waste and the circular economy. I also work at an environmental and sustainability consulting firm, and I do a lot of community engagement and outreach. And I'm also a recent graduate of the University of Illinois, where I studied environmental science and policy. That's where I kind of grew a love for engagement in local and state government. I worked on a couple of projects with initiatives to reduce food waste in the community, reduce plastic waste in the community, and yeah, I'm excited to come back now that I've left Champaign, and apply what I learned to this group, and I'm really happy to, kind of find a community with all of you, on our shared passions.
This thing isn't working very good, because I can hardly hear anybody. I'm Mike Kenyon. I am the chairman of the agriculture committee. I'm on the county board. And I'm a resident of South Goshen for the whole life, 4th generation dairy farmer. And I love the outdoors, and I want to keep the outdoors. Actually, I'm a real tree lover. I love trees, not the junk trees, the good ones. I'm here because it's important. I'm here to learn. So if you want to find out what's going on, get in the fight and join in.
Good afternoon, I'm Jackie Forbes. I'm Chief of Planning and Programming at the King County Division of Transportation. I'm fortunate that I get to do some regional planning work, and I've been following along how the region has put together a climate action plan. So I'm happy to be part of our King County Climate Action Improvement Plan, because now we get to do some real work here in our area. I am a resident of King County, and I have a couple daughters who I also care a lot about, and excited that my work life and I know my personal life, and we can get this done.
Hi, my name is Zoffridge. I am an intern for the Division of Transportation at King County under Jackie Forbes. I'm also going to be a junior at the Iowa State University in environmental engineering, and just wanted to share that I think it can be very insular. Like you said, it kind of feels like the odds are against you, like everyone doesn't believe in change when it really isn't that way. And it's so nice to see that there are so many other people, like locally, that care about the environment and taking change. So I'm just really excited to be here and apply what I'm learning and continue my learning throughout.
Awesome. If you would just mind passing up the microphone, that'd be great. And
I have to say one of the.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. It never ceases to amaze me. I mean, every time we put together a team, I'm always leave thinking, what an amazing group of people, and lots of different perspectives and experiences. So thank you very much. It literally is the greatest thing that we get to do is work with cool people. So I'm gonna run through a little bit of this stuff because we're just running a little late. I did a portrait out of anticipating timing well. So just to kind of give you a sense that, so this planning process, the third component is community engagement. So we got some parts and pieces moving on that. We think of it in 2 phases. The first phase is pre-input, and all of that pre-input, as I say, we'll summarize and we'll share with you so that you can consider it before we finalize what we think the draft plan looks like, okay? And then we'll do another round of engagement once we have a draft plan, so we can get people's input on the draft plan. What do they think? How can it be better? Did we miss anything? And it always includes 2 parts. One is online and one is in-person meetings, because we want to give folks an opportunity to give us input 24/7. Not everybody can make a meeting. We'll record, we've recorded some meetings, we can put them online and so forth, but not everybody can do that, right? So we have a survey that's been active for a number of months already. We're aiming to try to have that survey closed by the 1st of September. And that's so that we can kind of get that tidy, summarize, and share with you all what we're hearing out of that. I just wanted to give you a high-level overview of what we're seeing so far. Not final, and we'll share again, we'll summarize everything for you, but just to kind of get a sense of what people are saying already. So we've got about 800 responses right now. Looking at the age category, we're getting pretty good distribution. We could definitely use a bump for the under 40s. So if anybody knows folks under 40 or maybe participates in a university or something like that, just getting the word out to help promote the under 40s would be great. And it's not that we don't want to hear from the other age categories. We're just looking for the wheel to be as representative as we can get it.
Where's the survey?
I'll share with you that we'll get you all that information.
If you Google Kane County and Climate Action Plan Survey, it'll pop up for you.
Yeah, and it's on the team page, and we've
So,
also,
everything else-
it's linked in the agenda, and I'll share exactly how to get to that.
I have a question. Here with our actual demographic.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that I don't have that exactly well fit into my brain, but I can say that, we're pretty heavy in the 55 to 74 category in comparison to our demographics.
Okay.
I don't have the specific numbers, but we do tend to look at it eventually, but I can tell definitely looking at it that we're under.
Is that the big green one?
The big green one is the 55 to 74.
Our chart might be better. It's hard to tell.
Oh, yeah, yeah. But just to give you a sense, 75% of the respondents are either moderately, very, or extremely concerned about climate change. So we are not alone in this room. There is concern. That follows with what we've seen in every community we work with. I mean, the numbers will go up and down as we get other survey respondents, but I won't be surprised that it stays that or goes up. We've got 74% of the respondents that agree that Kane County should take action, and the municipalities in Kane County. 68% agree that Kane County should be a leader in it. So we even have a majority of folks so far that are saying, not only should we take action, we should strive to be leaders in doing this. So this is how you can, again, we want to promote. You don't have to do this. This is not mandatory either, but if you know contacts, if you're engaged in groups, there's lots of interesting groups that I'm hearing, church groups and nonprofits and other activist groups, universities and businesses and so forth. If you have networks of people that you would like to share the survey with, we would absolutely love to see that. It helps get the word out. We've got, as I say, 800 responses right now. I'll drop the gauntlet. This is a big number, but we keep track of each time we do this, we keep track of total number of responses and the per capita response, because I like using it as a little stick to like, isn't that happening? Can you beat that group? Yeah. And so the number one so far, the group that has the highest per capita is Skokie. We can't let Skokie beat us. Come on. Don't tell them I said that either, but I love Skokie, they're a great group, but so if we want to beat Skokie, if we hit 64 responses, then we would beat Skokie on per capita, and I'll let them know.
64 more?
6,400 responses. That's a big number, so, I mean, we basically want to get as many as we can get, right? I mean, if we got 10,000, it'd be great. If we get 100 more, I mean, we want everybody that we can get, so, yeah, I see.
Do you know where the responses are coming in from, like which cities? Did you track that?
Yeah, I think we had to,
Yeah, I think there's a location where people can write in their municipality.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't summarize that yet, but we can, if that's of interest, I can share that too, kind of share out what we're seeing, just so if you have the ability to target. But we definitely want, you know, any access that you folks have, if you want to share, we'd love it. We've got a little toolkit. So first of all, there's a public project website. So there's the team website that's password protected, so that again, you guys will have the ability to share information that people can't think with. But there's a public website, and that's totally sure we want to share it with everybody. And that public website has access to the survey. When we move along, we get to a draft plan. That's also how people can access the draft plan for comments. So we want to train people to go there. And there's a social media or a media toolkit. Just a simple, it's a Word document that's got links to flyers, to poster, to newsletter blurb, to social media text examples. Just thinking that if you have groups that you have email contact and you want to send out a little email blast or a newsletter for a group that you're involved in, you don't have to, but if you have the ability and are interest, it would be awesome. We find that actually the numbers go up when teammates and like commissioners or others, you're connected. And so if you can, it'd be awesome. Okay, so any other questions? We're at time. I'm happy to stay as long as anybody wants to. Any other questions anybody has?
Is it, we haven't been in, I assume most people haven't been too much into the private group yet, but is there a way, there's a question before about who we are and everything. Is the way to put in like profile and you can put in like your Facebook page and wait for us to connect with each other or know who we are.
Yeah, so what we can do is that's a great question, so I'll put that out there as, give us, if anybody has a concern with having their email shared, please let us know. And then we'll respect that, but barring that, what we'll do is we have a contact list of the team, and we can do the contact list of the team, emails, and a little bio blurb that maybe we can cut and paste into it. And then it'll be available on the team webpage. Team contacts, you can click on it, and if you want, hey, I remember, Jane said this or whatever, you can connect. So, but if anybody has a concern with that, please let us know. You just send us an email. But otherwise, we can put that together. Any other? And I just realized, so there's one. I quit out of the sharing one step 2 student. There's another slide that I want to share. Okay. So I don't want to force short the questions, and again, I'm happy to stay as long as desired. But I want to share the kind of next steps, and then I'll happily stay forever after that. But so the next steps, and again, I'll send out an email. I have a tendency of always sending out an email after a meeting to kind of recap the next steps, especially for folks that can't make a meeting. And by the way, I did not say this, there's 7 workshop sessions, 7 meetings. We understand it's a lot and life gets in the way, right? Stuff happens. If you miss a meeting, do not feel concerned about showing up the next one. You're always welcome to these meetings. You will always be able to participate. Do not worry that if you miss one, you're out, okay? So I'll send out a follow-up meeting or a follow-up email with all this stuff, but just so you know, the first thing is take a tour of the team webpage, just so you see what's there. That way you know, you don't have to spend a lot of time, but just see. The second, and very importantly, before the next meeting, please, if you have not done so already, please go to the sub-team sign up and sign up for 2 topics. You'll see they're grouped. You want to sign up for 1 in the first group and 1 in the second group. And the reason why they're grouped is when we do breakouts, we're going to do multiple subjects at once, and it's difficult to be in 2 places at once. So we want to make sure that it's organized so we can say breakout 1, everybody has a place to go, and breakout 2, everybody has a place to go. And by the way, if there's a group that's filled up that you really think that's the group that you want to be on, send me a note and we'll see. But consider that if you see one's filled up, but the other 2 are open, just consider if maybe that might be a good fit for you too. But just let me know if there's an issue, okay? The third is, once you have identified your 2 topics, if you can please look at those 2 topics on the baseline document. You don't have to look at all the other documents, you're welcome to, but if you can at least please look at the baseline document with the recommendations for your 2 topics before the next meeting, that would be great. And there won't be a test on it or anything like that, but it'll just kind of give you a little bit of a starting place with your teammates. And the suggested potential goals in the back is what the group will start talking about next time. So it's good if you just had a chance to read those, so you can think about it a little bit. And then again, if you're interested and willing and able, please promote the survey wherever you feel comfortable doing that. It's very beneficial. You can use that toolkit if you want, or you can just send out an email to your friends or people in your neighborhood or whatever. Okay, so the next meeting is, we called it's our goal setting meeting. It's July 20th at 11 to 2:30, so 1 hour longer than this one. And it's gonna be about 2/3 breakout. A little bit of me, and then I'm gonna start shutting up and it'll be more about you guys. All right, so thank you everybody for being here and online, and I'm happy to continue to receive questions. I just wanted to make sure I got that out for everybody. For anybody that needs to read. Just checking online. Okay. Great, so again, I'm happy to receive questions.
Thank you.
You can also thank you. There's bags and notebooks in the back. If you want them, take them. Anything that's not taken, I just have to take home, so. Good to see you. Yeah,
it was good meeting you. See you next time. I had not reacted to it.